Continuing where we left off in the last video, make sure we're in the generative shape design workbench. And then we're going to extrude the contours that we created earlier into the Z direction. These were the port and starboard side contours. And we're going to extrude the midline so that we get an intersection. So this puts the wire, so to speak, in the correct position to use as guides for the fuselage skin. Because when we trace the starboard and port side contours, really those are at approximately the midpoint if looking at the fuselage from the side. So click the intersection tool, which is the second of that group of three. Click the two extrusions. That'll give us, you can see a white line there. Hide some of these things. Okay. So you can see the line floating there on the left side. And we didn't really need to do the right side because we could just reflect it at this point and get the same result. But the next step is to create cross sections, which we will make out of ellipses. To do that, we'll put in a plane through those two endpoints, enter the plane in a sketch, and project, or well, we want to intersect them with the plane, intersect 3D elements. And that gives us the points that intersect with the plane. And we will use these to constrain an ellipse to serve as the cross section. Constrain it as a horizontal orientation. And we'll find out in a second here that the 3 points is not enough necessarily. Yeah, okay. By constraining the midline, you get automatic symmetry. You can get away with that if you had the fourth contour in there. Now we need to create a similar cross-section in the back through those 3 points. Again, intersect 3D elements. Create a circle, or an ellipse. And by the time we move around here, a line to serve as the axis of symmetry. So constrain the center point through it. Just as a means to make sure that this is correct, we're going to create a perpendicular line to the previous one, connect it to the endpoint, and constrain it to be perpendicular. And you'll notice that this ellipse is crooked, which is not good. So we will set the length of the line equal to the major axis. Now, for an ellipse, you have to constrain it as a radius, not the diameter. So you have to divide by 2 when you set it equal to the other dimension. So setting I guess in that case, the minor axis to the height creates the same effect as a horizontal constraint on the ellipse, which is what we did on the first ellipse for a cross section. So now creating a multi-section surface with our 2 cross sections and those contours. This is where we need the 4th contour to create a guide. So we'll bring that contour in. That's not the right one. I guess we never created it, so we need to create the intersection. Intersect star mid. And we'll add it to the guidelines. And you'll notice the shape changed pretty significantly there. So now we have our fuselage, barrel, and tail cone. To fill in the back tip of the cone here, you just do fill on the contour, and then for supports, click on the multi-section surface. And that'll give you the tangency kind of closed out as opposed to a flat fill. See how that looks relative to the drawing. Once we find the right one, I should really label those paintings. And see, it's a little long. But anyway, we'll worry about that later. Let's do the front section of the airplane. Still need to add the top part of the nose cone here. Follow the same procedure that we did in the top-down views for the side contours, adding a circle in here to approximate the shape of the leading edge of the nose, and then we'll add a spline tangent to it. Actually, we're going to just go for the nose section, not the tip of the nose, for the time being. We might be able to just fill in like we did with the aft cone. We'll find out in a little bit. But here now we need to create the midline, same as we did previously. And it's a pretty significant shift there. So we'll add more points and more lines. Go until we get something that works. Called fore mid contour as opposed to aft mid contour, which we named the previous. Part. And you get a pretty significant change in slope there from the previous one. But for now, it's fine. Because the shape becomes a little bit discontinuous there. Now we'll create intersections the same as we did before. Remember to name things, it'll help you out later. And we'll create a plane and enter a sketch on it. We'll add a cross section here. And I'm not entirely sure that those all 4 points coincide in the same plane, so I'm not going to do it the same way I did previously. In fact, I'm almost certain that they do not. So we'll just add it through the 1 point and make it normal to the YZ plane. The point top to bottom there. Yeah, you see how they don't connect or intersect. We'll add a plane through those lines. Same procedure with the cross section. And now we need another plane. We'll make it parallel through point to the previous plane. And again, another cross section. Same procedure. Continuing with the fuselage skin, we'll create a multi-section surface of the nose section using the guides we created. Just selecting them one at a time to show how the shape changes as you add the guides.